Hey guys, Aaron here, and on today's episode of The Aaron White Show, I interview Sean Weir, the owner of the Shaka Project. We talk suicide attempts, we talk heaps of different stuff, we talk how the Shaka Project came about. Yeah, basically, it's just an awesome show. All right, check it out. Have a great day. All right, that's recording. Quick word from the sponsors. FIFO by Aaron Weston, What Really Happens After Plane Takes Off, a hilarious novel about all the dodgy stuff that happens in the FIFO industry. And then you got FIFO 2, How a Drug Dealer became a FIFO worker. Both funny as, both available at Aaron Weston Author on Instagram or The Aaron White Show on TikTok and Instagram. And also Aaron Weston Author on Facebook. For the kids, under Children's Books by Aaron White on Facebook, we have Australian Mining Machines, Australian Surf Lifesavers, Australian Defence Force Machines, Australian Paramedics, Australian Firefighters, Australian Police Vehicles, Mining Machines Colouring In Book, all available on Facebook under Children's Books by Aaron White. All right, if you guys are watching this on YouTube and like what you're seeing, feel free to like and subscribe. And yeah, let's get into it. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Aaron White Show. Today I have a fantastic guest, Sean Weir. Sean is the owner of Shaka Project. Welcome to the show, Sean.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks for having me, mate. Really appreciate it.
Sweet as. Hey, today, can you just please tell me your story, like how and where you grew up, any life-changing events, and how you end up doing what you're doing today?
Yeah, so I'm from Ballarat in Victoria. Born and bred here. We're about an hour and a half away from Melbourne, so just west of Melbourne. Pretty much the coldest place in Australia. It's meant to be leading into summer at the moment, and it's about 6 degrees outside. It's absolutely freezing, so nothing like what you guys have over in WA. But I've lived here my entire life, and my background is a gym owner, personal trainer. I've been a personal trainer for about 12 years now, and run my own businesses and open gyms, and started the Shaka Project back in 2019, just after about 5 or 6 years of my mental health battle, and that sort of came from a few years of drug addiction and alcoholism, and it all sort of started throughout high school when I was a younger kid and growing up around the wrong group of people. I sort of experienced different things that teenagers probably wouldn't experience in their normal upbringing. So I was heavily involved with a lot of crimes and a lot of things that sort of make people sort of probably susceptible to different things and triggered by different sort of lifestyle traits and lifestyle choices and stuff like that people make. And I got myself into a fair bit of trouble when it comes to the law and drugs, and therefore that sort of led onto my addiction. So my addiction started when I was about 17, and I stayed in high school throughout the whole time, and was pretty committed to getting my year 12 completed. It was something that I promised my mum that I would do, so I made sure I committed to that. And I was lucky enough to go to a pretty good school, and I was surrounded by some incredible family members that got me through that time throughout school. When I left school, I became a personal trainer, so I got into fitness, and pretty much at the age of 18, I started my personal training business, and that was a pretty scary time for me because it was all of my mates were working full time or had an apprenticeship, doing FIFO, whatever they might have been, and I was pretty much starting a business from scratch with absolutely no business experience or history or anything like that too. So pretty much threw myself in the deep end, and it started off pretty slow as most businesses do, and I was still going through mental health battles in that time, and I'd been on medication pretty much since the age of 16. And probably the worst thing about the ages of 18 to 22 was I was a PT and a health fitness professional 5 days a week, and I was a drug addict about 2 days a week. So from about 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon until Sunday, I was a complete drug addict and addicted to alcohol and partying, and generally just getting up to no good. And I sort of got to the point where I knew that something was going to have to give in my life, and I was going to have either, make that choice, or it was going to make it for me. So unfortunately, it got to the point where it made it for me. And I was out in Ballarat on my 22nd birthday, and I got in a few fights, and testosterone was running high, and I was high on drugs, and ended up getting locked up and arrested that night. And that was pretty much the downfall of my business that I built up over the 2 years beforehand. The city where I am, Ballarat, it's a pretty big city now, but it's a really small town, so everybody knows everybody. And word got around pretty quick that I was, Sean Weir, this personal trainer, who was high on drugs, fighting people, fighting cops, and he got arrested. So safe to say, I lost a lot of business, lost a good reputation that I built up over the few years before that, and that sort of sent me down the spiral of mental health. And it was probably a good 48 months after that instance where I didn't really know what I was going to do with my life, and my business went from earning pretty good money and being pretty successful to pretty much having to start again and trying to rebuild my brand and my name and my reputation from scratch. So that was a really tough time for me, and it got to the point where I was I spent a lot of time in psychiatric hospitals and seeking professional help, and a lot of moments where I suicide was something that I competed with on a daily basis. And there's a lot of different instances that come to mind when it comes to these moments in my life where I consider taking my own life, and it's something that I still think about to this day, that helps me reflect back on what I've been able to build up with the Shaka Project now, and it's a really good motivator. And I suppose it's half the reason that we started the Shaka Project in 2019, so that we can continue to talk about suicide and talk about suicide awareness and mental health, and especially men's mental health as well. So throughout that period, I was able to rebuild my business, my personal training business, and successfully opened my own gym in 2015. And that was a really big moment for me. I was able to successfully rebrand myself, and thankfully that night that sort of destroyed my business was all but forgotten about by everyone in Ballarat, and I was able to really make a good run of being a personal trainer again and being a business owner again. And a few years down the track, I was able to expand that business to open up a few other gyms, and that's my real passion, is to start businesses and to do personal training, and health and fitness industry is a massive part of my life. But back in 2018, I was blessed with the birth of my daughter, and that taught me a lot about life when it comes to being grateful with what you've gone through. And I was very grateful that I was able to be there for the birth of my daughter when I didn't think I was going to make it past the age of 25. And that really motivated me to start something to do with mental health, which obviously brings us to the Shaka Project. So a big motivator for the Shaka Project was obviously all that, but it was we used to do a lot of different events through the gyms where we would try and raise money and awareness for mental health and for different organisations. And we did one event a few years ago before the Shaka Project, and we raised about $10,000 for this organisation. And it was a really big event. It was a 24-hour event, and we sent this money off to this really big organisation in Australia. I won't name who they are, but we pretty much just got a really generic email back from them, and it was just like a thanks for your donation. That didn't really sit well with me. A lot of people would put their time, money, effort, their emotions into this event. We raised heaps and heaps of money, and it was a really significantly emotional event for myself and for everyone else around me. And it was just a really generic email that we got back, and I just thought that there's got to be something that we can do more, that we can have a personal impact on people's mental health and people's recovery, people's conversations. So that was a big drive for me to start the Shaka Project, and the reason that we chose merchandise, t-shirts, hoodies, singlets, beanies, whatever it might be. The reason we chose that to really kickstart our brand is we wanted to be able to see the proof that people want to talk about mental health. So if we can put somebody in a pub with a t-shirt with a Shaka on it, and someone else can automatically go up to that person and know that they have some sort of understanding and empathy for mental health, then that can start a conversation. And that's the hardest thing about men's mental health, especially starting that conversation. So if we can literally put a conversation starter on someone's t-shirt or on a hat, on a jumper, that's going to ignite that conversation straight off the bat without necessarily using words. And that's exactly what we want to do with the Shaka Project. So that's where we started. That was back in 2019. Started the project thinking that it was going to be something really good for the city I live in here in Ballarat, and I've been extremely blown away by the amount of people that we've been able to reach, and we've now been able to establish ourselves as a national brand and international brand as well, and reach thousands and thousands of people all across Australia, across New Zealand, across the United States, Europe. All over, with people that just want to talk about mental health and want to talk about igniting that conversation. So what I thought was going to be a reasonably small project has now taken over my life, and taken over the life of people around me as well. So I'm not complaining. It's been absolutely incredible. But it's definitely been a wild ride, and we've got a lot of different things we want to do in the future. But if we can just continue to ignite this conversation and get more men talking about their mental health, then I think we can really make a change with the statistics throughout Australia, throughout New Zealand, throughout the world about men's mental health and suicide awareness.
You just said that you want to do heaps of different stuff in the future. Can you drop what you want to do?
Yeah, so we did at the start of the year, we've done a lot of events. So we did like a New South Wales tour. So we drove around New South Wales, went to different organisations, and did a lot of presentations on mental health and workshops and stuff like that too. So obviously with the pandemic, travelling throughout this year has been pretty tough. Hopefully, fingers crossed, going into next year, we'll be able to do it a fair bit more. So that's our plan for 2022, is to be able to go across Australia and do different workshops, and meet as many people as we can, get the Shaka on as many youths and people as we possibly can as well. So just expand that message throughout Australia, get more men talking, get more men comfortable with seeking help.
What made you decide on the Shaka as your logo as opposed to something else?
Yeah, so this is probably a cool story about the entire project. So my 8-year-old son, him and I were at a playground just before I started the Shaka Project, and he was on the playground, and he came down the slide really quick. I don't think he expected how fast he was going to come down. And as he came down, he sort of flipped off the slide and pretty much ate dirt. And I was standing probably about 30 or 40 meters away. And, as a parent, sometimes you sort of consider if you have to go over and check if they're okay. It's pretty lazy parenting, but I sort of stood there and considered it. And he stood up and looked over to me, and he threw up a Shaka. And I threw up a Shaka back, and it was almost like he acknowledged that he was okay, and then he continued playing. And it was a really cool way that we communicated without necessarily using words, and that's the exact thing we want to do with the Shaka Project, is open the line of communication between two guys without necessarily using words, because at the end of the day, that's the hardest thing to do for males, is to start that conversation. So if we can do it through a Shaka, if we can do it through a hand gesture, then that's the best way we can do it. So it's a really cool story. He loves the fact that he started it. He wants all the royalties. He wants all the trademark, but it's a really cool way just to start that conversation.
Oh, that's a pretty cool story. So when you donated that 10 grand to that organization and they sent back that generic email, do you feel that like they weren't that transparent where that 10 grand was going as well? You kind of just felt like you were giving them 10 grand and might have just been chewed up at admin fees for all you know?
Yeah, well, we just didn't have much of an indication of where it's going to go, and a lot of organisations are the same, and this organisation does some incredible work. I'm definitely not putting them down in any means. They do some amazing work for Australia, but they will get thousands and thousands of dollars worth of donations every single day. So I didn't expect a personal email. I didn't expect a breakdown of what they're going to do with it. But it just sort of left me a little bit sour because I knew how much emotion was put into this event from everybody around us. So I thought if there's a way that we can personally see what we can do with money and we can do with the events and education, we can see more of an effect of what we can do, then that's going to leave me, more comfortable with what we can do. My personal goals as well, I want my kids to be able to go to school and be able to talk about mental health. When I went to school, it wasn't a subject we spoke about. So I personally want my kids to be able to go to school and be comfortable talking to their teachers or to their friends about mental health. So that was a massive personal drive for me as well.
Because I know you have a big online presence. Have people reached out to you basically saying, I'm going to commit suicide, can I have a chat? And then that conversation that you've had, or one of your, I don't know if you've got a team or it's just you, one of you guys have spoke to them and like kind of talked them off the ledge, so to speak?
Yeah, look, there has been some really full-on conversations that we've had from many people, and there does come to a point where we have to take a duty of care, and we've got some policies in place where if somebody reaches out to us, we straight away we get in contact with their family or their friends. Or if we need to, we get in contact with emergency services. But the first thing we do is refer them on to Lifeline or the suicide callback number, whatever it might be, that they can contact that professional help. We're not qualified psychologists or psychiatrists or counsellors or anything like that too. So we definitely do refer straight onto emergency services and crisis services. But most of the time, we just get people that want to talk. We get people that want to have somebody to vent to or to validate their feelings. And 99% of the messages that we get is just messages of complete support of what we're doing. And we get regular messages of people that just love the content that we post and how relatable it is to their life and what they're going through. If they're having a bad day, they can jump on our page and see one of our quotes or see one of our messages, and just feel a little bit better about what they're going through and a little bit less alone. So if we can do that and make somebody feel just a little bit less alone through what they're going through, then we're pretty happy on this end.
That's pretty sweet. Do you feel as a personal trainer, people come to personal training not just to work out their body, but also have a chat, have some sort of like human interaction, if that's the right way of saying it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I think since day one, even before I started the Shaka Project, and a lot of PTs will know that you're a personal trainer and you're a counsellor as well. A lot of people go to the gym and go to the personal trainers for their mental health outlet. I've had clients break down to me before. I've had clients tell me things that their husbands or partners or wives don't know about them because it's just such a personal thing, and they feel like they can open up to myself or their other trainers, whoever it might be. But it's a mental health break. Going to the gym and doing fitness and health and fitness is something that people go to make themselves feel better when they're going through a rough time. So yeah, absolutely. That was that's probably been a blessing for me because I had that, I was a personal trainer for 6 years before I even started the Shaka Project. So I was able to I was able to go through those stages of talking to people and listening to people. So that's probably something that's helped me when I've had to go through those moments with the Shaka Project, is I've had that experience before.
No, pretty sweet. Hey, I just want to jump back some years because I feel this would be interesting for the audience. That psychiatric hospital that you went to and stuff, how did that come? I know you were like suicidal and stuff like that you were saying, but how did you go from, having these thoughts in your head to actually getting into the hospital? Did you check yourself in, and how did you get out? What's the go with that one?
Yeah, so I definitely did check myself in. So there was a moment where there was, when I was in my crisis stage, and we talk about crisis stage a lot, where there's times where we're suffering and we're going through mental health stages, and then there's a crisis stage, and this is a really dangerous stage that people can be in. And this is a stage that I was in for quite a while, and basically it's a time where your mind goes to suicide and it goes to self-harm, and it pretty much stays there. And you get to a point where that's all you can think about. Like, you get to a point where you're thinking about that with a sense of comfortability, and it's really scary. So, there was times where I would go to, I'd go to the city, I'd go to a hotel, and normally when you go to a hotel, the first thing you think of is, I'll go check out the view, see how big the bathroom is, have I got a beer in the fridge, all that sort of stuff. That's the first thing you normally check. But the first thing I did was, check how high up I was, and think about, this would be a good place to do it. And it was a really, really comfortable feeling. It was a normal feeling. It was just the first thing I did. And that's when I realized that I was in this crisis stage. There was one moment in my life where I was, driving my car, and I was out in the bush, just outside of Ballarat here. And I was pulled over to the side of the road, and I'd sort of made the decision. I thought, this is what I wanted to do. This is where I'm comfortable. This is where I want to take my life. And I stopped on the side of the road and pretty much lined up my car with a tree that was about 50 meters away, and put the foot, down to the pedal and accelerated. And this massive sense of calm came over me. I was extremely comfortable with everything I was doing, and in hindsight now, you look back at that and think how frightening that is. But I was massively comfortable with where I was and what I was doing with my life, and I put the pedal down and went straight to this tree, closed my eyes, and what seemed like 5 minutes was only about 10-15 seconds. And the next thing I sort of remember, I woke up, or I opened my eyes, and I was in bushes and shrubbery, and all I could see was trees around me. And I got out of my car really quickly and was, in this sort of shock state. And the first thing I did, this is probably the funniest thing I've ever really heard the story, is I checked to see if my car was scratched. I was about to total my car, and the first thing I did was make sure I wasn't scratched. But I eventually got out and sort of calmed myself down, and I checked around where I was driving, and I noticed that I'd pretty much driven into this ditch, and this ditch had flung me out of the way of this massive tree. And that was a big wake up call me that there's clearly something else I've got to do with my life, and this isn't where I'm meant to be. And I pretty much drove home from there, and got my mum to take me straight to hospital, straight to ER. And they put me in the ward for about 2 days. And that was really, really beneficial for me. It was obviously extremely scary, but it was really beneficial for me just to get away from the world for a few days. I got out for about a day and a half, then I went back in. And it was sort of on and off for, probably about 2 to 3 weeks. So yeah, it was complete self-admission. And it was something that was really important for me to do, for my own mental health, but for the people around me as well. And it's something that I don't look back on in shame or regret or anything like that. I think it was something that definitely saved my life. So yeah, that's how I ended up there, and it's probably something that I look back on and am grateful for that I was able to do.
What are they doing there to help you? do they drug you up, or do they just do counselling, or what's the go there?
It's it's all very personal, depending on why you're there, what has happened. You know, if you have self-harmed, you could be medicated, you could be, it's a very, very wide variety depending on the situation you're in. But I was medicated. I wasn't heavily medicated, but I was medicated. And you know, I was visited by a lot of different professionals and psychologists and counsellors and psychiatrists. But it is, I couldn't say what they're going to do. If someone wanted to walk in there today, it's going to be a completely different experience to what I experienced. So it's definitely very, very personal with what the actual what the subject is and what the person's going through.
What medication did they give to you? Do you remember?
I was already on antidepressants, and it was more about balancing where I was, and there was a lot of antipsychotic medications, and obviously depending on the situation, again, I was in this crisis stage, so there was one thing on my mind, and that was self-harm. So there was a lot of medication where it was just calming myself down and getting some solid sleep and some rest and trying to bring sort of that anxiety down that I was in and that state that I was in. So there was many different medications and I suppose processes that we went through. Even I remember sitting on the end of the bed with one of the doctors, and he literally just said, "Count to 100 for me." And I count to 100. He said, "All right, do it again." I did it about 4 or 5 times, and every single time I got slower and slower and slower. And he, did my heart rate at the start. My heart rate was through the roof, and then I did it at the end, and my heart rate had calmed down because I'd slowed everything down and slowed down my counting process, which slowed down my anxiety for everything too. So there was a lot of different processes that went through.
And you could check yourself out whenever you wanted, or when you sign in, you kind of locked in for a couple of days.
Yeah, you couldn't really sort of get up and leave. It was more a they were definitely it wasn't sort of like a rehab or anything, so you weren't in there for a minimum amount of time. But it was most definitely the doctors had to clear you to say you can go home to a safe home, to a safe environment. I'm not too sure what it's like these days. This was 8 years ago. So processes may have changed, but I know that back then it was very much, let's see where you're at. A lot of counselling, a lot of, making sure that where I was going to go after the hospital was a safe environment for myself and for everybody else around me. But yeah, you definitely couldn't get up and leave. And I think a really big stigma, psychiatric hospitals are you're not wrapped up in those things like you see in the movies. You're not drugged up to the eyeballs. You're not walking around, not knowing where you are. It's basically like hospital. You're in a hospital bed. You get fed 3 times a day. You're not strapped into your bed or anything like that. It's just a place where you can go and get a couple of days of pretty helpful medical advice and give yourself a bit of a rest from the world.
And that's just part of because you said you went to the ER, so that's just part of the normal hospital, is it? Is it just a certain little ward part of the hospital?
Yeah. So I just went straight to the emergency room and told them that I was having these suicidal thoughts, and it's pretty much a welfare thing. So they'll get you straight into see outpatients mental health, and a lot of the different hospitals will have these different mental health units, and it could be completely different in whether it be regional or in metro, but majority of the time they're going to put you straight into a mental health outpatients unit. And it could be that you stay there for an hour. It could be that you stay there for a week or 2 weeks. So again, it's just very, very dependent on the situation, whether you're affected by drugs or alcohol or addiction or any sort of type. Whether there might be abuse involved, there might be something else involved. So it's very dependent on the situation that you're in.
When you drove towards that tree, I know you said that you had like this calm about you, but did like your life flash before your eyes or anything like that, or that didn't happen?
No, not really. I think it was a really, really overwhelming sense of calm, that I'd finally done something that I was okay with. And you know, a lot of the time where you're going through this crisis stage, you're questioning everything you do. So it was an overwhelming sense of calm to the point where I knew that it was wrong. I knew that it was the wrong thing I needed to do, that I needed to go and do alternative things like seeking help. But I also knew that this was what was going to be the thing that took everything else away, took all the anxiety and the pain and the hurt away from what I was going through. So it's a feeling that's it's probably really, really hard to describe and hard to relive as well. I don't think you relive it unless you're in that crisis stage. And thankfully, I've only ever been in that crisis stage maybe 4 times in my life, and that was one of them. And you know, I know when I get back in that crisis stage, and I know what I need to do when I'm in that stage as well. And that's half the reason we do so much work with the Shaka Project, is so that we can target people that are in that stage, in that crisis stage, and we can target people that may feel like that they're alone, they have no one to speak to, or they can't go seek help. We want to be able to reach those people in that stage, and show them that there is help out there. There is people that they can contact and that they can talk, especially if they're a male. They can talk about their feelings and what they're going through, and that their feelings are valid as well.
Do you still get suicidal thoughts and stuff now, or you're pretty all right with it?
Mental health is most definitely a lifelong thing. You know, I'm definitely not cured. I've actually only recently gone back on antidepressants in the last month, and that was something that was a really big thing for me. And something that we try and promote a lot with the Shaka Project is, you know, we're 2 blokes that run the Shaka Project, and we're not mental health warriors. We haven't found the secret, the secret pill or the secret code or anything like that to cure mental health. We haven't found, everything that's going to make everything okay again. We go through days that that really suck for us. We have days that we don't want to do anything, that we don't want to get out of bed. We have really, really shitty days. So mental health is going to be with me for the rest of my life, and I'm completely okay with that. I'm medicated again, and you know, it's again something that today I'm having a really good day. Today I'm feeling really good. But I know that last week I had a really bad week. 2 weeks ago I had a day where I was back in crisis stage, and that's why I'm medicated again now. And that was only two or 3 weeks ago. So there's definitely days where I get to that crisis stage. It takes it's not something I take lightly, obviously. I don't if I'm having a bad day, I know I'm having a bad day. And there is a big difference between having that bad day and going through some poor mental health and being in that crisis stage. And that crisis stage is something that I was in a few weeks ago. And then I previously hadn't been in for about 12 months. But yeah, I definitely do have those bad days and those bad weeks and bad thoughts and all that sort of stuff for sure.
So to get your antidepressants, you just got to go see your doctor. He prescribes it. And what does it actually do? Does it numb you, like make you a bit more of like a zombie mode, or how do they work for you?
No, not at all. So yeah, the best way to get on medication is to go see a GP, get a mental health plan, and they'll pretty much recommend what you need to do, whether it is going to see a psychologist or psychiatrist. And establishing some sort of plan that you can do with your mental health, which is really effective. And they'll write you a script for antidepressants, or it might be anti-anxiety medication, whatever it might be, depending on your situation. And basically, what they do, a lot of mental health is just a chemical imbalance in the brain. That's essentially what depression and anxiety and a lot of other different sort of mental health issues come back to and relate back to. So your antidepressants will literally try and rebalance those chemicals, and the chemicals that we lose when we are going through depressive states. The antidepressants will try and balance that back up. So it can be really hard. It can be really hard to go on like antidepressants. The first 2 weeks are really, really tough. You might go through waves of emotions. You might feel worse than you did when before you were on those antidepressants. A lot, and that. It's not like you're going to some sort of zombie state. You do definitely notice it. I've only been back on for 3 weeks, and I'm actually feeling extremely good. My anxiety is, a lot less than what it was 3 weeks ago. And it doesn't cure you. It doesn't make every day good, but it does allow your body and your brain to have some sort of calmness when it comes to these really, really anxiety-filled moments in your life, and it makes everything just a little bit more clear and gives you a bit more clarity when it comes to thinking about these moments in your life.
Oh, pretty sweet. We've almost hit our time. Anything you want to leave the audience with?
Look, just if you're on Instagram or Facebook, then check out our content on the Shaka Project. We're really trying to get to as many people as we possibly can out there, and get as many men and women and all genders to understand that it's okay to speak up and talk about mental health. And we want to try and get those numbers down, get the suicide numbers down across Australia, across the world. Mental health is going to be with all of us for the rest of our lives. So if we can sort of start to attack it head on and save people, then we're happy, and we just want to continue to do that. And
have you got a podcast yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. It's called the All Good Bro podcast. So yeah, jump on there. We've got some incredible guests that have come on and talk about their story. We've had some amazing stories of adversity and people that have gone through mental health and different sort of conditions and have survived and are here to tell their stories. So definitely jump on and give that a listen for sure.
Is that on YouTube or just audio like Spotify and stuff?
Yeah, all on Spotify. If you go onto the shakaproject.com, you can see all their merchandise. You can see our podcast, all our Instagram. That's how you can contact us, all the crisis resources as well. So Lifeline, Beyond Blue, all those different organisations you can contact through our website.
Oh, you're a legend. That was an awesome interview. I just want to say big thanks for coming on. Did you enjoy your time?
Loved it. Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, yeah, that's a wrap. I'd like to thank Sean again for coming on the show, and I'd like to thank you, the listener, for listening. Please tell a friend about the podcast and have a fantastic day. All right, bye.